Last week, I shared differences between human mastering and AI mastering and gave you some audio examples. Is human mastering better or AI mastering? Take a look and find out. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 on our series on human versus AI mastering. If you missed part 1, I'll leave you a link up above so you can check that out. We're going to get into some more detailed differences between human mastering and AI mastering. I gave you an explanation, a simple explanation of what AI mastering is in the last video, so be sure to check that. I also gave you some audio examples of the final mix and the AI master, the Landr master, as well as my mastering, and talked about dynamics, which is important especially for streaming, and I have a whole series on that, dynamics in music. I'll leave you a link up above, so check that out. But we're going to get into a little bit more detail here. So here's the same song, Pleasure Delay by my friend, and you have the final mix, the warm medium Landr master, my original master for club play, Louder master for DJs. His label sends music to a lot of DJs. He's a DJ himself as well as a producer. And then I will give a streaming master because streaming platforms need different parameters, and so you don't get penalized. You don't want to get turned down and lose and have a crushed dynamics and lose all of the clarity and punch in your music. So first things first, let's take a look at these. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out, if you look at this transient right here on the Landr master, you notice that there's been a little extra space added at the beginning of the song. And that probably was the MP3 conversion because he provided me an MP3 conversion. MP3s will do that. But it could be, I didn't get the wave from him on the Landr master, unfortunately, because I ended up mastering this for him. Mine was better, so he ended up going with me. And that's one of the interesting things. But for the purpose of this video, what we're going to do is we are going to chop some of this so we can line this up. Now I'm going to just use a fake grid here. And what we're going to do is we're going to line these up right on the grid, and then we're going to shuffle these over. So let's put this right in. So now they should be pretty much all lined up, and they look like they're perfectly in line. As you can see, the transients are looking pretty. All right, so now that we have them lined up, I'm just going to go ahead and play you some of these so you can take a listen. If you missed that last video, you don't know what these sound like. And in the last video, I actually level matched them so you could truly hear the differences without the loudness. And that's important because loudness can be deceiving. I have a video on that. I'll leave you a link up above. But here is the final mix. And then take a look at this Landr master. Notice it's clipping, and we discussed that in the last video. It's over 0, which is bad in the digital domain. So I'm going to go ahead and play you this one now. So it's louder. It has a lot of mid-range like we discussed last time. Here's my master. And then the streaming master, just so you can get this one. And so you're going to really be able to tell there's a big difference between my master and the Landr master. To truly hear the difference, you need to level match it. And I did that with Bounce Boss, so make sure you go check out that last video. In today's video, though, we're going to do some different things. These plugins are on, but they're not doing anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Pro Q3 to look at the waveform differences. Then we're also going to try to do a null test to compare the differences. So let's start with the Pro Q3. Okay, first let me play you a little of this Landr master so we could check the levels in this meter here. So that's running at about -10, which is not really loud enough to commercial standards. Notice the true peak value is over 0. Horrible in mastering terms. Let me go ahead and play you my master for a little comparison here. And you see this little orange bar, that's the dynamic range meter. So it's showing you the actual dynamic range. Notice mine does not peak, and mine's running between -9 and -8, which is way better for commercial standard loudness, especially for club play, beatport, track source. But for streaming platforms, that will get penalized and turned down. So what I went ahead and did is I made him a streaming master. And a streaming master is running at much lower volume, which retains the dynamics, retains the punch, retains the clarity. So the next thing we're going to do, and this is going to be interesting to see, is I'm going to try to use a FabFilter Pro Q3 to compare the tonality differences. And then we'll go ahead and do a null test with this trim plugin to try to compare the tonality differences between mine and the Landr master. We'll try to level match them and get that done. Okay, so we're going to use FabFilter Pro Q3 to compare the differences here. And if you missed my video on FabFilter's unique tips and tricks, I'll leave you a link up above. I have the analyzer on, and I have the FabFilter running my master, and on this FabFilter running their master. So you're going to see, when I play the Landr master, you should see my master in the red, and you should be able to see the differences. And I've honed in 3 dB here, so it's not very, there's a very minimal difference between the graph. Notice in the lower region and then the upper region and in some notched areas, you could see that my master has less apparent volume in certain frequencies and more apparent volume in other frequencies. Let's now use my master and compare. Notice I have the Landr master here loaded. And you're getting the exact opposite. You see in the red, that's the Landr master, and it's lower in certain areas and higher in certain areas. So let's try to do this. The interesting thing is the Landr master is peaking at -0.1. Let's see. Let's give this a play right about in the loud. They're very close. So if I was to flip the phase on the Landr master and play these both at the same time, let's go ahead and turn this down a tad. It's a little distorted, and mine is a little louder. So to account for that, what I can do is try to just lower this by, let's say, -4. And what you're hearing there is the difference between my master and the Landr master. And as you can see, there's just some apparent low end, some clarity, some mid-range differences, and that is the enhancement element right there. Let's do the same thing with the original first, with the Landr master, the final mix, and then let's try to do that with mine. So first of all, what I see is I'm going to lower this one 3 dB to match, and then I see this one is peaking at about 4.6. So to try to make that match, I'm going to lower this by 4.6. And there's the null. As you can hear, there's a lot more mid-range in there. So let's go ahead and copy this over And I have the same settings. Remember, this is 1 dB lower, which is approximate. This is not a perfect null test, but let's go see what happens. And you get a little bit of distortion because they're both playing together, but you really do hear some difference there. And as the Landr master being a way more mid-range heavy, with my master having added a lot more bottom end, a little bit more clarity, and taming down some of those mid-range frequencies that I felt did not help the mix, the song, or the soul, or the feeling of it. And that is going to be the biggest difference between human mastering and AI mastering, is simply that, you just lose that human touch. No algorithm is going to be as good as a human ear, especially a human trained ear in an acoustically treated environment like this one. So be sure to check out part 1 if you missed it, because I go over a lot of very important details. And I hope that shows you the difference between human mastering and AI mastering. Maybe one day artificial intelligence mastering will get really good. We don't know. But algorithm mastering is available now, as well as the new AI, artificial intelligence mastering. And we'll see where this goes. In the meantime, if you want a free stereo mastered sample, I offer all first-time clients one, so be sure to check the link below to get yours, and have a good day. And that's an overview of human mastering versus AI mastering. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment down below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and the bell notification will keep you up to date. Once again, my name is Freddie from Distinct Mastering, and have a great day.